I don't get to watch as much women's disc golf as I wish I could because I'm always busy playing disc golf myself. But from what I have seen, I'm putting her number one women's putter that I have personally seen in the last year. So I think she's one of the best that we have. If I had to pick one woman to come in and putt my putt for me, I'm picking Lisa. So she's very solid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Woo.
All right, I'll go through my routine and some of the key points that I think are important for my putt. So I'll talk a little bit about push putts, and I'll give you some bonus spin putt stuff because I kind of use two distinct styles depending how far I am away from the basket. So in general, as you've probably seen on videos, I'm primarily going to putt out of a straddle stance, although I also will practice from a stagger when I'm warming up or whatever, practice putting. I use that as well, especially into a headwind or a low ceiling, because the stagger putt you can get more momentum, as Lisa is saying, from the legs, where out of the straddle, the leg part is more about loft. You can't really get forward push out of your legs in the straddle without having a falling putt, because most of that energy is up and down. So I'm going to use that part of my form to generate loft, and then the power is coming more from that idea, like I mentioned quickly, that putts are going forward, not up. Like I'm letting my legs take care of the up, and my arm is basically just getting the disc some forward momentum, where my legs are pushing the loft part. So I really believe pretty firmly in the breathing stuff that Lisa's talking about. If I'm getting ready to putt, I'm going to bust out this move a few times. This is what I do when I'm just kind of like starting to try to get that positive self-talk or just get myself ready to perform and commit to my shot. It's not something that I started doing because I figured it would look cool. I don't know, it's just something like my hands did while I was getting ready. So I'm just kind of doing this, and then once I actually am ready to take the putt, I'm going to pick my aim point. If I'm close in, like I said, it's going to be in the middle, either a link or the pole, but a little bit high of center, but dead in the center. So I'm going to pick that spot, that's my aim point, and try to commit my energy there. When I'm in close, that's going to be it. If I'm farther away, then I'm picking that apex point, like somewhere up here, and just trying to give the disc a chance to hyzer towards the pin and maybe get lucky and make one from 40 or more feet. I'm not really aiming for the center anymore. I'm just trying to put the disc in a position where it might be successful. But anyway, back to the routine. So I'm going to be here getting ready, kind of like partially crouched. As I load the putt and get ready, I'm always going to breathe in. So right here, as I'm ready, I'm going to kind of exhale, empty my lungs, and then on the putt, I breathe out. So I'm going slow on the drawback, and I think a really important thing is to separate the drawback and the putt. Two separate motions, and the drawback much slower than the putt. So I don't like when I see people that putt like this, and it's all one kind of motion. I think you could lose your line, so you're gonna struggle with consistency. I think it's really important that the drawback take at least twice as long as the putt. So for me, I'm gonna be loading pretty slow like this. And then I'd like to see a small pause here to separate the motion, and then right back to where I just was with the exhale, and that's when I'm standing up and using that extension. Another tip that I think for me with the straddle putt, it's really important to push equally from both legs. You don't want to cheat it into more of a stagger feel by like trying to load up one leg more than the other. You want to sort of try to stay balanced. Doesn't matter which foot is on the marker. Be comfortable with both, and be comfortable with a variety of distances between your feet. But whenever possible, try to equally load the legs so that you're kind of getting a pretty even push from both sides, where you're not going to impart some weird angles or whatever by trying to compensate more with one leg than the other. So that's kind of the beginning of my putt, making sure that I'm getting that breath in, making sure I'm picking that aim point where I'm just going to keep my eyes laser focused where I'm trying to go. And then the exhale and the follow through is very similar to what Lisa's doing. I think most players are doing this, where you're having that shake hands with the basket idea. So I want to make sure that I'm coming from down low, but I want to finish with a kind of a straight back and an open hand, where I'm kind of up here, chin up, everything up, where if I stay small, then I'm going to miss low. I need to make sure that I'm able to kind of extend and have a big motion. The motion can be sort of slow, but it should always be big, even when you're in close. You don't want to get into like a real small choppy thing. I always want to get way down here and swing way back up to make sure that I have that big full motion, to have that consistent move to the basket.
Follow through.
Yeah, follow through is super important, making sure that it's nice and big.
So important.
So yeah, that's another thing. And then the other thing, one more like kind of little tip that I think is important to think about. This is often creeps back in and becomes that Ferris wheel thing for me that'll mess me up, is that you want to release the putt earlier than you sort of think you're doing it, if that makes sense. As people get nervous, the thing that I see a whole lot is people try to guide the putter all the way home. And what that does is your hand gets around the back, and the very last thing you do is impart this nose down. So not only will it be a little bit wobblier, but you'll lose nose control and you'll miss low a lot. It's like, it looks like this. If you try to, like, even though that went in, it's like kind of wobbly and going nose down. So the thing that I try to remember is that I'm popping the shot kind of down low, and the follow through is still big, but the explosion is earlier than you sort of think. It sort of feels like it's like out here, but it's actually like here. And then the rest of it is following through to that spot. And when I do that, I have a lot more success from distance. If I'm kind of holding onto the disc too long and putting nervous, then I really am not effective from like outside 28 feet or so. I can kind of get away with slopping them in from 28 and inside really regardless of how I'm putting. I can trust my practice, and I've been playing long enough that even when I feel bad, I'm still going to make those. But I can't make those nicer, longer putts without that sort of more clean, full form. Okay, so that's my push putt. I'll do that anywhere from 2 feet to maybe 45. And as I get outside the circle, my options are to just putt regular from like maybe 35, just slightly outside the circle, especially if I'm downhill or flat. I might not follow through with the feet at all. The next thing I'll do as I get a little bit farther away is a step putt where I go like this. And I'll drive out of the legs enough to where this foot comes through. And then if I really am uphill or really big, a lot of times I'll go to a spin putt before I'll do this, but I'll go more to a full jump putt where I'll come off the ground and I still land in this stagger stance on the back of it. I'll go from straddle into stagger like that. And then after I get past that range and I have to go to the spin putt, that's when I usually go to these R Pro darts, a little bit straighter flyers. And I use this shot for a huge variety of things. If I want to lay up from like 125, if I want to go after a 70-footer, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to go over your guys' heads towards that next basket. You guys are safe where you are. But this is the form that I'll use. So like I was sort of answering one of your questions, I think yours.
Yeah.
Instead of the push putt form that I'm using generally, where my load and my drawback is inside the thigh, now my load and drawback is at the belly button. And where a push putt has an element of vertical wrist motion and an element of horizontal wrist motion that drives the disc, in the spin putt, I'm limiting that to all horizontal wrist motion. So I'm not allowing upward wrist motion anymore, so that way my drawback doesn't need to be low. It's coming in right here tight, and it's gonna be a more direct putt. So from this range, I didn't really have a shot that I could use from this range and have any chance of giving it a run before I developed more of a spin putt style, because this is a very awkward range for me to go to to like a little half throw. It sort of feels too short. So anyway, what I do is I usually come out of the stagger stance, load the back leg like Lisa talked about, draw back into the belly button, and then the jab right to the shake hands position. So for this one, I'm going to aim, see the little tree branch in the sun directly over the cart path?
Okay.
That one that's kind of yellow?
Yeah.
I'm going to aim at that. Try to commit the disc to that spot, and I'm going to hopefully get lucky as it falls out of the air and comes past the chains. So that's kind of my strategy from this kind of range. Just try to commit to that apex. A little too low. Do one more. A little too wide. But those don't really bother me if I'm from that range. I'm not thinking like, make this putt. I'm thinking about just put it in the air and make it a credible chance. And that kind of segues me kind of right into a general mental tip that I'll give you guys, is that I think too many players miss that part of it. Their goal inches towards perfection, and I don't think you want your goal to be perfection. It puts too much pressure on you if your goal is like make this or park this hole. The goal needs to be good, and then you can hopefully luck your way or accident your way into perfection all the time. The better you are, the more often it happens. But I don't make my goal like ace it or park it. My goal is like be right of the tree. Or in this case, my goal is like commit it up high, out to the right. It's not about trying to make it, because if your goal is make it, then everything that isn't a make is a fail, and you feel this negative reinforcement coming to you that can build up on you. Where if my goal is just to commit up high, even if I airball, this still counts as success. If I put it up there, that's fine. I'll make the comebacker. And I can kind of go, okay, cool, that's fine. Like I need to move obviously I picked the line a little bit too far to the right in this wind because every shot I've done hasn't pulled in at all. So then next one I might make an adjustment. But I think people you need to make your goal a little bit more simple and a little bit more attainable so that you can build success during the round. Too many players only allow themselves to feel the negative, where if you have a goal that's just good, that guarantees good, takes bogey out of the equation, and you succeed at that goal, then you can kind of give yourself that little internal pat on the back and move on to the next hole, building positive momentum. Where if your goal is perfection, too often you're like, oh man, I'm just not, you get in that mode where you're like, my best on this course is -8. No, I'm not going to do that. You never shoot your best you only get to do that one time. But people will kind of base their expectations off that, push too hard for perfection, put too much pressure on themselves, and not allow themselves to feel any positive emotion. Even when they do make a 40-footer, there's these guys that'll kind of give you the cool guy strut up there like, oh, I was supposed to make that. And it's like, sure, that's great, and you don't need to be obnoxious and celebrate outwardly. But even when I miss a 50-footer, if it goes off the rim, you might see me on the video go like, dang it. But on the inside, I try my best to be like, that was good. And I'm kind of moving on to the next thing, trying to make sure I'm in control of what's going on, making sure that I'm dictating my own attitude. Okay? Great. So is there any more questions after you guys just heard what you heard, or where do we want to go from here? Grip. Let's talk about grip, just in general.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my fingers, I have relatively large hand and usually pretty wide.
Yep.
With throwing and putting.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. For me, the key things about my grip when I'm putting, I tuck my finger, this very first digit, right in that crease. That's under the rim. The next thing is the pinch between the middle finger and the thumb on the plate. And then the other two fingers are just sort of resting there to hold the disc in the palm, but not really quite squeezing, I wouldn't say. They're just sort of there to make sure the disc isn't falling out of my palm. But that's what mine is.
And again, because my hand is smaller, so my grip is just a little different, and it goes back to what's comfortable for you and your hand. Mine's mostly the same, except I don't really tuck my index finger right here under. I could, but what it feels comfortable for me is just to lay it right on the rim, right on the bead right here. And I'm still able to get a clean release. I kind of just lay it right under it, just because for me that's what's comfortable. It's where I like to tuck it in.
Do you, because I putt more like you, Lisa, where I have one out. But as soon as I get to a point where I'm throwing a putter approach, I tuck it in, and that's where I get that snap. So Nate, are you getting a snap when you're putting, say, 30 feet, or is it mostly off of this?
I don't feel like it's a snap. It's different than the feel of a throw. It's more. I prefer to think of it like a pop, like she's saying, where it's less than like being a bunch of like moving through the wrist and really like ripping a lot of spin onto it. I think of it more as just like the hand is closed and I'm up here at 12 o'clock or so at the bottom of the drawback, and then from there it's just like going pop, and that move is more explosive than you think it is. Like that part is the part of the putt that really is like aggressive. Even if the putt looks very smooth, this part is very like, and that's why breathing matters to me, because I actually have to, even on 40, 35 footers, it's not that far. My body isn't getting tired in my big muscles, but these muscles have to work, where I have to be like, and that's when I'm making them, is when I'm like putting some pretty extreme like, opening that.
Yeah, and that's like timing too, and when you're breathing too, like you're saying, you're matching your breath to when you're putting, and that goes with timing. So it's really important, like you said, for the slow to fast movement to happen. That's something that timing, it just so you're not off mechanically as well, and your spring stuff, not your top half and your bottom half need to match, going slow. And when you're kind of coiled back, you're like you said, it's real aggressive. When you come forward, I almost think of like a snake almost. Like I'm like coiled back here in my, like I'm ready to like kind of like pop forward. So I mean, it's just that pop at the end, and you go from slow, you kind of creep up on it. You know, you're real like, that way you're just so in control, you're balanced. It's so important to be balanced, in control, and I'm really focused on like what I'm looking at, and I really want to make the putt. So I'm just like, basically almost like a cat, like you're pouncing, you know, like, so it's like that slow to fast timing that you get with all the repetition